Hello, Hebsy man.
Hey, hi everybody, and thanks for coming to us. I've got to get rid of this thing here. Sorry, got it. We're being live streamed. It warns you that you're being live streamed, right?
Absolutely. And yep,
Yeah,
seems to be working. I'll tweet the link at you so you can share it with the Hebsy
cool.
fanatics.
So here's the deal, folks. Today is the first day of our new format, right? And so part of that is we're not going to do an extended red carpet show because I don't know why not. I'm trying. The reason we're not going to is we want to save all the really good stuff for the podcast. And also the idea of a red carpet show, of course, is Mike, the red carpet is the pre-Oscars show. That's what they call it, where you see people walking down the carpet. Oh, there's George Clooney and there, that type of thing. So we kind of stole that little idea and we really haven't lived up to it.
The late, great Joan Rivers.
Yes. We really haven't lived up to that. We haven't we kind of use it as an expression, but anyway, it's like the pre-show. So we're going to have a very shorter version and we're going to get started with the podcast in just a second. But I want to thank you all and also for indulging us here because we're going to take a couple of steps outside our little comfort zone after the first, 262 episodes. So enjoy it. Let us know also, text us, whatever, get in touch during the show if you want to, but give it some time because we're going to do the same thing. I'm nervous. I'm here to tell you right now, I didn't sleep last night. Because I'm like, there's different elements. Usually it's like, okay, write it up, figure it out. It's you and Mike, go. Now, guests, Zoom. We're not going to be using the Stage 10 software that we normally use. So it's going to have a bit of a different look. So we're very excited.
And I'm excited that before we hear some Los Lobos, you're going to retweet.
I am.
The tweet I sent you.
I'll do it right now. This is very exciting.
Lots happening here today. It's always, what I kind of like, I tweeted that we were fucking with the format because it's kind of once in a while you got to do that. Like just
that's the correct word. That's the right word.
To feel alive,
That's
you
the
get
right
complacent,
word.
Everything's the same. And it's like, no, we got to stir shit up. Let's do something different.
Well, it's not a case of stirring shit up. I think here's what it comes down to, folks. Basically, this is what it is that we're told by sponsors and whatever saying, it's a great show. We love it. You don't have enough listeners like the big shows, like these ones that are run by, Rogers or TSN or Barstool Sports or ESPN or whatever. We don't have that kind of budget. We don't have that. We can't pay for researchers and bookers and stuff like that. So it's a whole different animal. So you've got to build up to a certain number of listeners, of downloads, podcast downloads, or YouTube views before people go, oh, yeah, right. We're willing to invest because their, CPM is, let's say, $20 or you're trying to get a CPM of 20, cost per 1,025. What's it worth to you? How long does the listener listen for? Are they engaged in the show? Are they loyal to the show? Do they want to support the show? So we're trying to figure all that out. So it's a lot of fun. So anyway, I just retweeted here, Mike.
Did you do it?
I think I did, didn't I?
Okay. Because then I think we hit the lowest of the low and we get rocket here. Racket and rocket.
And by the way, lowest of the low. Bad news this morning.
I know. I tweeted at him. It all sucks.
I know it all sucks. We'll talk about that. Okay, I'm ready to roll. If you guys are very excited here for the what do we call the soft launch?
It feels pretty hard to me, Hebsy. But look, let's
go.
Let's do it and see how it goes. Here we go.
Giddy up. Live from Toronto, it's Hebsy on Sports, episode 263. Hi there, sports fans. Welcome to the show. Mark Hebsher here in Little Italy. Toronto Mike working what are those potentiometers? What do you got there? Or slides?
They're pods.
Yeah, short form for potentiometer, right?
Oh, I learned something today.
Mike's running the mothership in New Toronto. Today on the show, it's the soft launch of a new format. Actually, no, it's hard. We're hard today. This is a hard day.
Hard launch.
It's been a hard week. Okay? We're not, by the way, when I say we're going to switch formats, it's not like we're not going punk country or all comedy or something like that. No, we're just changing things a bit, partly because of COVID and partly because we need to spread our wings and find new and exciting people to listen to the show. For example, yesterday, like just a terrible day in the world of sports. And some of it's reflected on this show. The Leafs-Flames game in Calgary, postponed. The Raptors-Bulls game in Toronto, postponed. In the English Premier League, Tottenham-Leicester City, postponed. 5 more fixtures postponed this weekend there. And they're talking about just basically taking a break, like stopping until the new year,
Circuit
until things
breaker.
get better. And the saddest news of all, Dave Randorf's appearance on today's podcast, postponed, COVID related. But lucky for us that we've got Humble Howard pinch hitting for Dave. Or what would the golf equivalent of pinch hitting be? I don't think they have that. Like, he can't go. Can you pinch hit for him?
Yeah,
it doesn't work that way.
Pinch swinging.
It'd be like a caddy, I guess, or something like that. Anyway, we're going to talk some Tiger Woods out in the range this morning with his son. We're going to see him on the golf course this weekend. That's a for sure. That will not be postponed. That will not be canceled. Plus, should they just cancel the Olympics like right now? Because every day it's like, what are the percentages that NHL players are? Folks, this is not good. And what's the difference between 10,000 people in a building and 20,000 in your barn? Like, really? Let's just close down the leagues until Christmas. Unless this weekend, miraculously, with the rest of the world spreading this all over the place, these leagues somehow manage to keep it together and have enough players to put on the field or on the ice or whatever. I don't know about you, Mike, but I need a break at some particular point. We've also got the NFL, and what a battle between Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes last night. We'll talk Grey Cup, sports media news, and Hebsy's holiday gift guide.
Woo.
That's right. The new format allows for me to do this for you last minute shoppers.
Wow.
How's it going with you, Mike? Christmas a week away. What's going on in the Toronto Mike house?
Yeah, today's the last day of school. So we were warned by the TDSB, like, bring everything home. Bring
Toronto
it home
District
as if
School Board.
Right. So yeah, well, yeah. Bring everything home as if you're never returning. So there's that feeling, like, this feels a little bit like March 2020, and I don't like how March 2020 felt, not only because I broke my wrist at March 2020, but that shitty feeling is kind of there again, and we need some Hebsy, some escape, because it's doom and gloom out there.
Okay, so earlier this week, I tweeted out that we're switching formats, and our first guest under the new format, we're going to bring a guest on the show,
right,
would be Dave Randorf, play-by-play man for the Tampa Bay Lightning, a superstar, an absolute superstar in Vancouver, was on a show called Sports Page in Vancouver, which was just like Sportsline. Same company, actually. Sportsline started, and then, I don't know, within a year or so in Vancouver, they had a similar show. Really good show. And of course, Hockey Night in Canada, Sportsnet, play-by-play guy and all that. Anyway, he contacts me yesterday afternoon. Hebsy, I can't make it. He said, I've got to go in this morning, right? Like, they had a game last night, beat Ottawa. He has to go into the arena, the Amalie Arena in Tampa, drive in this morning to get his COVID test. And then he goes home and he waits for the results. And the result is that it's negative. He can then drive to the airport and get on the plane, because the Tampa Bay Lightning is heading to Colorado to play the Avalanche, who have like 5 or 6 guys in COVID right now. Like, it's just crazy. So everybody's waiting. There's a Yiddish expression, you're sitting on spilkas. It's like pins and needles. No, really. And you know this, Mike. You don't know what's going to happen next.
If I may, I'm not a doctor. I need to disclose that immediately. Not a doctor.
But you play one sometimes on this podcast.
Yeah. I'm not gonna get into this game that the media and others like to play. I call it the case counting game, where it's like, okay, in 3 days, 2 billion Canadians are gonna have COVID. Like, the whole case counting. I don't
like that either.
Yeah, I'm like laser focused on hospitalizations. Like, getting this, we're gonna have this forever, right? We learn to live with this. We get our boosters when we're allowed, but it's not going anywhere, COVID. So we need to sort of learn how to live with this thing, and we just need to make sure that if should you, I don't know, get hit by a car on one of your walks, that when you get into the ICU, they can service you there, because they're not clogged with a bunch of COVID patients.
That's very true. A lot of people are looking at, the severity of this. I mean, it can spread. And believe me, I mean, as you know, seasonal flu can spread. I mean, there are contagious diseases. It's the severity of it.
Right.
And look, I know someone who yesterday, called me and said, yeah, I just tested positive for COVID.
Right.
Matter of factly, in that they have no symptoms at all. People they know, and these are people in the service industry, people they know, have gotten COVID and recovered, never thought of going to the hospital, or were in bed for a day or two or longer, like a regular flu. Like, how many people do you know I'm whacked out by the flu?
Of course.
Now, people at that time didn't say, how did you get it? Where did you get it? Like, do you have to take a test for it? Like, you're sick, you're sick. If it's really severe, you go to the hospital. Anyway,
So
Let's not get
anyway,
it.
we're all
Yeah,
hyper
go on.
focused on this. It's and we're watching because right now it's a
Right.
little bit of the unknown, right, which is scary. But
Right.
so of course, out of an abundance of caution,
Please,
things
please.
have to change.
Par excès de prudence. You have to say it in both languages. They canceled the game in Montreal last night. Okay. You think the Quebec government in their press release said out of an abundance of caution? No. Par excès de prudence.
Have you announced yet? Have you announced yet who the first special guest is that's going to pinch hit for Dave Randorf?
I thought I'd leave it to you since you
Oh.
know him as well as I do.
Well, how about we wait
and
till
in fact,
this person?
you brokered this deal. You helped broker
I
the
did
deal.
do this. I did broker this
because
deal.
it was a deal. Because when Randorf got in touch with me yesterday around noon,
right?
Okay, there was a decision to be made, an executive decision to be made. Do we go on and just try our best without a guest, or do we try to replace Dave Randorf? I mean, and that's really what you're doing. And when we approach that person, do we say, "Look, you weren't our first choice." And I know it's like 18 hours notice, but we really need you tomorrow. That kind of coming hat in hand on our knees, please.
So let's not say the person until that person arrives. Like I'll do a big announcement for this.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. I think some people. Oh, okay. Some people don't. Anyway. So yeah. So this is the new format. This is it. And the cancellations have begun. Like I said, there's like 5 games in the English Premier League that are canceled this weekend, and they're worried that they may not be able to play the requisite number of games in the league, that because Tottenham's like 33 or 4 games behind, and they just don't have spots in your schedule because unlike other leagues, the Premier League in England that's not the only competition these players are involved in. There's the FA Cup, there's the League Cup. If they're playing in Europe, there's they're playing in the Champions League or in the Europa League or Europa qualifying. So there's these other tournaments that are going on where there just aren't enough days in the week where you can reschedule the game on the proper pitch against the team. It's a whole story. Anyway, the lowest of the low, your buddy's lowest of the low, had to cancel 2 shows this weekend. I was really looking forward to going tonight and tomorrow at the Horseshoe, like the iconic Horseshoe, lowest of the low, right. 2 shows canceled. This is serious stuff, folks. We got to go back inside. We got to get the N95 masks because a lot of people don't know how to mask. Like, come on.
Do you have?
And we really got to think about this
isn't it?
Capacity thing, and the N95.
Okay, but do you have any of those?
Yeah.
Okay, because I read today, Muni, the guy on the science table for Ontario, Peter Muni, he's like, oh, if you got a cloth one, which is what I've been rocking, throw it away.
Yeah,
like this is where we're at now.
Get the N95 mask. Yeah.
Wow.
And also, I find them to be much easier to breathe in than the cloth masks. Okay. They're really well designed, and they can't slip off of this. Like nothing can come in the sides. Right. You know how people kind of wear it sometimes. Anyway, by the way, new format. Next episode. That's next Friday morning. That's Christmas Eve morning. Mm-hmm. Rob Baker of the Tragically Hip.
Wow.
Who's a big Toronto Maple Leafs fan, like bigger than you can imagine.
Wow.
Because you look and say, oh, he probably doesn't. And man, Rob Baker, and it's like, he's a huge Leaf fan and has been since he was a kid. And he's from Kingston, where they're not all Leaf fans. There's many Hab fans and even some Ottawa Senator fans and Bruins fans. Like Gord Downey, of course, he was a big Bruins fan. So he's a Leaf fan, like through and through. All right. So we'll talk about
Harry Sinden was Gord's godfather, right?
Yeah, that's right. So Rob's a big Leaf fan. We might talk a little music. I don't know. What do you think? You think you would get it? That's next week. Soccer. We got to talk about soccer too. Maybe get him to go to the Canada USA game in Hamilton in January at Tim Hortons Field.
If anyone's allowed to go.
Right. That's right. That's outdoors, but yeah, we'll talk about that too. By the way, future guests on the show, Joe Siddle on the 31st. Woo. That would be New Year's Eve morning. And Adnan Verk.
Hey,
about 90% confirmed for January 7th. He wanted to come in this week, but taking holidays with the family and he's a busy guy. So there you go. Now, as you probably know, folks, this show is on life support when it comes to finances. I can feel for all the small businesses that are suffering through, how many versions of this pandemic, how many waves. If this next one comes, a lot of businesses they can't survive. I want this business to survive. So what we're doing here now is we're starting to think about ways to generate revenue. without you having to put your hand in your pocket. Although that would be nice. We're looking for sponsors, and that's the bottom line. But I've neglected to mention one of the great Christmas gifts that you should have on your Christmas list. So here's Hebsy's 2021 holiday gift guide, starting with a book. Which book? This
The greatest
book,
athlete you've never heard of.
Now, you might have heard of the book and say, oh, but I'm telling you this right now. Okay. There are good stories out there, and there are great stories. And this is a great story about George Washington Orton from Strathroy, Ontario. Little skinny kid falls out of a tree when he's 2 years old. Okay. In Strathroy, Ontario, and is told by doctors he's never going to walk again. Suffers a blood clot on the brain. His right arm is completely paralyzed and never recovers. It's like a dead right arm. And you'll never walk again, son. And for about 7 or 8 years, he couldn't walk. He could barely stand up. And then miraculously, he recovered and went on to become one of the greatest athletes in history, one of the great distance runners of all time, two-time Olympic medalist, gold medalist in the 2,500 meter steeplechase, but also a tremendous lacrosse player, one-armed, a tremendous hockey player, one-armed, and just a great runner and a great athlete, and invented hockey in the city of Philadelphia when he went to the University of Pennsylvania, went to U of T, played on one of the first hockey teams there, a real innovator. Came up with the idea of putting numbers on football jerseys in 1914. Who is that guy that made the tackle? Well, I don't know. Well, what if we what a great brilliance. So he was a real innovator, and he was Canadian, even though those medals, the gold and the bronze in 1900 Olympics, were awarded to the United States, because at the time you didn't run for your country. It wasn't your country or the flag. It was just you or whatever delegation you came from. And he went with the delegation from Penn, and they thought, oh, he's an American. So of course the Americans naturally just put down George Orton, USA. For 70 years, he was thought to be American, until some great Olympic researchers found out that he was from Strathroy, Ontario, went to the University of Toronto, held the Canadian record for the 1 mile run for 34 years. And the medal should be awarded to Canada. Now, why hadn't you heard of this story before? Why hadn't I heard of this story before? Because the newspaper writers at the time didn't like this guy because he fucked off and went to the United States from Canada. And if you left to go to the United States back in those days, well, screw you. That's the way they thought about it. So they never covered him in the Olympics or the other Canadians that went down there, because Canadians at the time thought that if you went down there to seek fame and fortune, well, then you're not a real Canadian and you're not a real amateur and all that bullshit. Anyway, it's a great book. It's available also on audiobooks because I did the narration, you see. And if you want to buy the book, you want to buy it, like, let's say one of those digital copies of the books. What do you call those things? Ebooks. It's available, Amazon.com for $8.79. The paperback edition, the one I showed you, available on Amazon.com, $21.22. Okay, you can buy it there. You can buy it wherever you buy. Yeah, wherever you buy your books online, you can buy the book. And if you really want to make a special gift for $33, I will personally autograph a copy for you or your loved one or the recipient of the Christmas gift or whatever gift it's for. $33. That's $2 less than the normal price of $35. And the $2 that we're saving is going to go towards this podcast. Okay, how about that?
That's the perfect gift for any Hebsy fan on your Christmas list.
It is. So DM me on social media or email me, markhebsher@gmail.com. And if you prefer audiobooks, and I know a lot of people do, I'm the narrator of my own audiobook. I've got a good voice. I'm a good storyteller. And here's the deal. You can get the ebook from audible.com or Kobo. Audible.com will even give you a free trial to listen to the book for free. Free to listen to this book and support the podcast. So sign up. Do me a favor. Go to www.audibletrial.com/Hebsy. audibletrial.com/Hebsy. Okay. And I'm going to say this again slowly for you. www.audibletrial.com/Hebsy. And a small portion of the proceeds of the book sales go to supporting this podcast. So if you buy the book, you're supporting the podcast. Thank you for that. And another way to support the podcast, folks, you're looking for Christmas gifts, time's running out, even afterwards. You want to be clean. You want to smell good. Nate makes soap. We're going to talk to Nate in a few minutes. NateMakesSoap.com. Homemade soaps delivered to your home. Lavender, peppermint, grapefruit, bourbon tobacco. There's one called Shower Boy, all made from luscious oils and bougie butters like shea and cocoa butter. And you know what? If you got cracked skin like me, I mean, my skin's cracked like Mike, like downtown Toronto bike lanes, cracked like that. It's awful. And nothing better than this. I mean, these soaps and these emollients that are in them, just absolutely lovely in the scent that you want. And it's folks, it's not for girls. You know, I like soap too. And some of the soap out there is kind of, just doesn't do it for me. Right. But this stuff's great. Makes your skin really soft. Great. And especially nowadays, you got to wash your hands. Like I wash my hands like 10 times a day. Still do. Always will now. I don't know what I'm touching. I don't know where you've been. So I like to have nice soap. I like to have nice soft hands too. And you know what? Having soft hands, it's a good thing. NateMakesSoap.com. Use the promo code Hebsy10. That's Hebsy10 to get 10% off your first order. Great gift for everyone on the list. NateMakesSoap.com. Okay. Mike, as of this morning, as of 9:00 this morning, 60 NHL players had entered protocols in a 4-day span. 52 NBA players had entered protocols in December. In the NFL, the Rams, Browns, and Washington alone combined for 67 players in protocols. And the first shoe dropped last night in the NHL, where for the first time this year, a game was played in its entirety with no spectators. About 2 hours before puck drop in Montreal, the Habs announced that fans would not be able to attend in person because the Quebec medical officer of health had asked them, out of an abundance of caution, par excès de prudence, to not allow fans into the Bell Center for the game. So thousands of folks who had tickets to the game were downtown having a bite to eat, having a drink, left out in the cold. Show up at the Bell Center. Sorry, you can't come in. Can we wait outside? Can we cheer from outside? Like, what do we do? And then the logistics of refunding. And now these logistics of, in Ontario, because this came on the heels of Ontario saying starting Saturday, any venue over 1,000, only half capacity, which to me is ludicrous. Like, makes no sense to me at all. So in this Habs game, they played the game in front of no crowds, which the players are used to if they played last year, right? Just eerie, though, and makes you think how many more games are going to be played with no fans in the stands? How many more games are going to be played with like teams with like 7 players down? Like Florida was missing 8 players yesterday. Calgary's game against Toronto was postponed because the entire Calgary organization has this. Nashville were down to 7 players, including their coach. They had to recall the coach of their farm team to come in and coach them last night. Colorado missing 5 players. Vancouver's not missing anybody now, but they had problems earlier. In fact, they won their 6th game in a row with Bruce Boudreau behind the bench. So what's going on in sports? Like, is this the harbinger? Are they going to shut down the leagues? Should they do this, Mike? What do you think?
Well, I think that if I look at the science, the problem is that most of us, the vast majority of us, only have the 2 shots in our arms. And at this point with Omicron, it's like a 40, I think it's something like 40% coverage or whatever. But if you get that 3rd shot, did you get it yet?
No, I can't. I'm trying. I'm on the waiting list at 5 or 6 different places. I know I have it for January 5th, and I can lay low till January 5th. I cannot go out. Like, I cannot go out to January 5th. I got tickets next week to see Pretzel Logic. They'll probably cancel that show.
Oh, yeah. I've seen
You
them.
know what I mean? A lot of these live shows, they'll likely, if this continues, they'll likely have to cancel it, right? Out of an abundance of caution, naturally. And I understand that perfectly.
Right.
And also, I got tickets to the Knicks and the Raptors.
Oh, yeah. It's
and I don't want to go, even if you can go, I don't want to go if it's half capacity and you can't buy a beer there and the mask police are going to be running around.
Well,
that to me is not an atmosphere to go to the game. I don't want to.
Just to finish that thought really quickly, is that when you get the 3rd shot after that settles in or whatever and takes effect, it boosts you to 80% coverage. So that's a big difference between 2nd and 3rd shot. So a lot of this, a lot of this extreme caution is simply because very, very few people have 3 shots in their arms. We need to get a 3rd shot in all the 18 plus. And maybe then
how many anti-vaxxers are going, yeah, you got the 1st shot, big deal. You got the 2nd shot, big deal. You got the 3rd, like people are still getting it, right? And but the thing is that the severity is a lot less.
We defang it.
Then those of you who refuse to get vaccinated. And by the way, my brother told me the story. He's at the Leafs Blackhawks game last week, right? And he's sitting there in good seats, and there was nobody sitting in the two seats next to them for the first period. I guess they just didn't show up or whatever. And he said these two guys came down and sat down, and the guy next to him's got a beer. And he says to him, he said, this nonsense with masks, and you got to put it back on, and blah, blah, blah. And he says to my brother, he says, I'm not even vaxxed. My brother says, what? How the hell did you get in? He says, I lied. He had a fake.
Oh, a fake PDF.
He had a fake PDF. So my brother's like,
oh, wow.
My brother's like, get the fuck out. Like my brother says, get the fuck out of here, and is about to call the usher.
Right.
And then the guy and his buddy like hightail it out. And he's pissed. This guy is 6 inches from him. Yeah. Unvaxxed, mask off. Oh, man. Okay. And, did they think of this at first? Well, let's have a vaccine passport. People can counterfeit that shit. Come on.
True. The new system is that they scan that QRC code or whatever, and QR code. And apparently that helps to.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Leafs.
Shit show.
Yeah. Shit show. And here's the other thing, too, is it seems to be that every other team, like every team except Toronto teams, name off all the players who are in COVID protocol. And for some reason, going back to Austin Matthews last year, we should almost just list the people that aren't in COVID protocol. It would be easier just to say these players are available, and you figure out the ones that are in COVID protocol. I mean, really. The Leafs are in Vancouver. I had mentioned the Canucks having won 6 in a row with Bruce Boudreau behind the bench, beating San Jose last night 5-2. They play the Leafs tomorrow night in Vancouver, God willing, before a capacity crowd. I don't know what's going on in BC, God willing. Then the Leafs are in Seattle on Sunday. Then they fly home to host the St. Louis Blues for a 2 p.m. game on December 23rd. By then, out of an abundance of caution, the arena may be empty. Who knows? Stay tuned. Last night, 6:30, Michael Grange on Twitter. Per MLSE, season ticket holders are a priority now that capacity is 50%. Non-season ticket holders will be refunded. Season ticket holders for Leafs and Raptors will each be divided into 2 groups, and ticket allocation will be determined randomly. Details are still being worked out. So I got tickets to the Knicks Raps game January 2nd, like I mentioned. I don't want it if it's 50%. I don't want it. If I bought tickets to go to see a full house, cheering for the Raptors, be able to get a beer, that whole thing like that. So I just don't understand how you can you're worried about sending kids to school, but it's okay to put 20,000 in, and then it's okay to say, we're going to reduce it by half because it's too risky with 20, but it's okay with 10. Like, I don't get that, Mike.
Yeah, it's not okay.
I don't get that. Are they reducing the size of classes in school?
No, of course not.
Come on, man.
To explain it to you, essentially, it just reduces the exposure risk by 50%. So, and again, we're going to sound like a broken record, and I feel like hopefully there's some real sports going on in the world still, but I got to say that real quick is that like the whole case counting, a lot of this is like, let's see how severe this Omicron is, because we know it's so fucking contagious. Like apparently, even though you're in your home studio right now and you're college in Clinton and I'm in New Toronto, you could still give me COVID. This Omicron is so contagious. It could come through the Zoom apparently. So very contagious, lots of cases. You're going to know a lot of people with Omicron soon. And at some point, we got to learn how to live with this thing.
All right. So if I ask you, let me ask you this, okay? Suppose you got tickets to see the Raptors in Golden State Saturday night. Steph Curry. I hope he plays. But you got tickets to that game. But by tomorrow, the numbers have doubled again.
Well, I got a real life example. I had a ticket to see Lowest of the Low yesterday, and I decided not to go.
And so I just think that, the public in general is kind of going, I don't know if I want to take this chance. It would be like saying, look, folks, the seasonal flu is out there. You may be sitting at a game indoors next to someone who has the flu. They got flu symptoms. They've got the flu. It's a bad flu this year, blah, blah, whatever, right? Are you going to risk, if you know that person's got the flu, are you going to risk going? Or are you going to say, I think I'll take a pass, or I'll sit somewhere else? You take your chances. It's seasonal flu. In this case, it's sort of the same because, the numbers could be outrageous, but the number of people going to the hospital or having severe cases of it could be like minuscule. So it's just like one of those flu seasons. This is something we all have to be able on our own to be able to determine. But when the government says this many people only, believe me, going to restaurants, you think you want to go to a restaurant now? If I said to you, Mike, the seasonal flu is all over the place, I'd say, I'm not going to a restaurant. I could get sick from my server, people next to me, seasonal flu. Same thing applies here.
Real quick, yesterday, I met our mutual buddy there, Cam Gordon, for some Great Lakes beer, and we were going to do it in a bar. And then guess where we decided to meet for beers?
In a phone booth on the Beltway.
Yeah, underneath the Gardner in the Bentway.
Yeah, so, the Bentway.
Which was great because it was like summer yesterday, but there you go.
Would you go if you got tickets to see the Raptors Golden State? You didn't go to see lowest of the low. Would you go? 10,000 there.
I will go when I get an X number of days after my third shot.
Okay. All right. Good for you. Meanwhile, the NBA and its players have agreed to enhance health and safety protocols through the holiday season in response to the rising virus numbers, with additional testing coming and a return to mask usage in many situations. Back to the masks all the time, folks, and good masks. The upgraded mask rules will be in place until agreed otherwise by the players in the NBA, according to a memo shared with the teams last night. Masks need to be worn again in almost all circumstances during team activities, including travel, when on the bench during games, in meetings and locker room, weight room, and training room settings. The exceptions during on-court basketball activities for players and for head coaches during games. That's it. Masks every other time. As of Thursday evening, last night, 39 players, roughly 8% of the league's total player roster from at least 13 different teams, were known to be in the league's protocols. Chicago had 8 players known to be in protocols, one more than Brooklyn. Former MVPs James Harden and Giannis Antetokounmpo both entered protocols earlier this week. Russell Westbrook entered yesterday. You're talking about superstars who can't play because of COVID. I bought tickets to see this game. I want to see the superstar. Oh my God, you got COVID. Jeez.
Speaking of superstars, Hebsy man, it is my esteemed pleasure, my honor to introduce to you the host of the co-host, I should say, of the Humble and Fred show, a show we've loved since 1989, still podcasting 4 days a week. Subscribe to that fantastic podcast, which has a very handsome producer. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Humble Howard Glassman.
Humble, thanks for joining us, buddy. Thanks for joining us in a pinch here on the inaugural soft launch, new format, Hebsy on Sports. Great to have you.
Well, I can tell you, I'm just honored. I actually sent a note to Randorf, and I said, "Hey, I apologize. I'm sorry. I know everyone was like, oh, Hebsy on Sports, a new format. What super sports guy are they going to get?" And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, that guy.
No, it's because the reason I got you is one sport we know that's going to take place this weekend, Howard, is the what is it? The DP Open, the double penetration open with
easy now. Easy now.
But you know what I mean? The double, it's the team, it's the father, son, or no, it's the
father, son, PNC, not P and V.
Right. Right.
By the way, are you saying the DP thing? Because I made that joke on the show.
I know, it's a good one. It's a good one. Yeah. And for people that know what DP is, yeah, exactly. No, this is it's not for fathers and sons, Howard. It's for professionals and one of their children or parents, right?
Initially, this tournament started years ago. It was just fathers and sons.
Yeah.
And initially it was like Lee Trevino and his kid, Nicholas and his kid, etc.
Huh.
And now they've opened it up because, sometimes.
No, I don't know. Why do they open it up?
Well, because people have other siblings, and because golf is an inclusive sport, etc., etc.
Got it. I personally, I love this. This morning, Rob Longley it was about 8:00 this morning, tweets a picture of Charlie and Tiger on the range this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Dressed exactly the same. They're not even playing till tomorrow, right?
Oh, no, they're playing a pro-am today.
Oh, a pro-am.
It just started a few minutes ago. So these tournaments have big, most people, maybe they don't understand that pro-ams are how these golf tournaments basically raise money outside of sponsorship. Because to play with Tiger and Charlie today, I'm sure it's, the CEO of Nike and, somebody else, but it's a big ticket item.
So if we had a pro-am for this show, this podcast, we could raise money that way?
Yeah, I guess you could. Sure. Okay. Whatever, you could raise some lasagnas.
How much would you pay to play, you and your friend or whatever, to play golf with Tiger and Charlie? What would you pay?
How much would I play?
Yeah.
I would, you know what? If I had the chance to forget Charlie, if I had a chance to play 18 holes, I don't
with Tiger.
With Tiger.
Okay.
I would have a ceiling. For me, it would be, as for an experience, I think I would clock in at around $10,000.
Oh, I'd go 20. Tiger, come on, man. You're talking about that the rest of your life, Howard. Don't be so cheap.
Maybe.
Maybe. Tiger, I don't know. No. It's not 5 minutes with Tiger. It's 4.5 hours with Tiger.
I know, Marky, but I don't have TV retirement money like you. I am still grinding it out on the Humble.
And I'm not grinding it out, right? Come on. Who's the most famous? What's the most enjoyable round of golf you've played? Who were your playing partners?
Oh, easily my dad. Easily the best round of golf. The most I've met many rounds of golf with. I know you were kind of going to ask me who's the most famous, maybe, or who the.
No, I wasn't. No, I wanted to know who you love playing golf with. Man.
But I can tell you
the fuck about famous.
Exactly. Well, my dad and I have had I had a lot of rounds with my father, but there was a couple of significance, and it's interesting because I was going to bring up one of the things I love about golf, and that I think you can relate to because you also love other sports. And it's not that I don't like hockey. I played hockey at a very high level until I was 17 years old. In fact, I don't talk about it much on the Humble and Fred show, but at one point I was a way better hockey player than I was a golfer. Way better. I played.
And you were a prodigy. You were a prodigy as a young boy, were you not?
I was a very good player, but I was a much better hockey player. And it's not that I didn't have great moments watching hockey with my dad, but I watched something that Golf Channel had on yesterday. It was Tiger winning the British Open, the Open Championship in 2000, completes the Grand Slam. It's the youngest to ever do it. And I'm watching the tournament, and I can remember my dad and I playing that golf course.
Really?
And that's the memory I had was not. So golf has that layer of not only am I watching a significant event, a historic event, but I also remember my dad and I going to the course that day in St. Andrews and how nervous I was. And my dad was kidding me. He's like, I was sort of trembling a little bit on the first tee at St. Andrews. And my dad's like, what's going on? Why are you so nervous? I said, because they've been playing golf here for 400 years. Like, I just, it was so weird to me. But as much as I love the Boston Bruins, which was my team growing up, I don't watch an old Boston Bruins game thinking, oh, I remember when my dad and I played there at the Garden. Right. So that's why golf with my father is definitely my memories of my significant rounds, but one in particular, I shot under par for the first time at the golf course I was playing at. And it was a very tough golf course. And I played with my dad and two other good players. And no one talked to me the last three holes. As they said later, it was like watching somebody pitch a no-hitter. Literally, I was on my own from 16, 17, and 18. When we putted out on 18, they all kind of congratulated me. And I said, where have you guys been? Like, I was so uptight and freaked out by the experience, but that was probably, and I got my golf. This is going to sound, I don't know what it's going to sound like, but I had the scorecard bronze. The golf course took it from me. Cause again, it was the kind of thing where the round was so unusually low for an amateur to shoot it that they took my scorecard and my dad's signatures on that card. And I have it in my little golf, wall of fame.
What else have you got on the wall of fame?
I've got two other things. I've got Bobby Orr scoring the goal. I have two sports memorabilia. I have Orr in the air scoring the goal against St. Louis. And part of that frame is the game card from that day. It was amazing, right? The old NHL game cards. Yeah. So I have that, and I have a picture of Mike Weir putting the green jacket. Or Tiger Woods putting
it on Mike.
Tiger putting it on Mike. One of my
That's a great picture.
Those are my favorite sporting moments.
Great. So you've been like Humble and Fred have been together. I'm thinking, let me think here now. You were at one of my charity golf tournaments. I'm going to say 91. You were there. Late Dan Gallagher was there. It was great. We had a really, really good time. You were just starting out then at that time with Fred. So 30 years plus. In all those years interviewing people, who was the coolest athlete that you interviewed? Like a Leaf player, a Blue Jay player? I don't know.
First of all, we started in 1989. I think the tournament you're talking about might have been at Angus Glen. I know for some reason I think we were.
No, was it Huntington, Vic Hadfield's place.
All right. Are you sure it wasn't Crosswinds? Trying to plug your sponsor.
No, it wasn't. It was, I think, 91, Howard. Anyway, but anyway.
Okay, athlete-wise, that's a really good question. I mean, there's been a lot of them on the show. This is going to sound strange. One of my weirdest moments, or I thought it was, here's, again, I don't want to make this all about my dad and me, but I remember very often when my father was still alive, somebody would come on the show, and while I'd be talking to them, whether it was Robert Duvall or somebody, I remember I would always think, I can't wait to get off the air and tell my dad. And so I would always think of things in relationship to how quick was I going to call my father. And the one that I remembered as soon as you said that was the old goalie for the Leafs. I can't remember his name. He's big hands, didn't wear a mask.
Big hands and didn't wear a mask.
Yeah, he was one of the
Johnny Bauer.
Johnny Bauer. Johnny Bauer. I remember him in the studio. As I can see it now, he's in the studio doing some book, and I remember shaking his hand.
Great hands.
And his fucking hands were just massive.
I know.
And I remember getting off the air, going to my dad, "Hey, I just." So that was one of those moments. The other moment I had, and I know you've had thousands of these, but I remember this is only a few years ago. I was on a Club Link golf trip, and I got a chance to hang out with. Was it Mike? Is it Maurice Richard, or it was
No, it was Henri. You would have hung out with. Yeah, the Pocket Rocket, who just passed away within the last year.
No, but this isn't the. So it was the other one.
Yeah, this is the Pocket Rocket, Henri Richard.
Okay, so
excellent golfer,
very good player. So we were on our way. We were there. He was on the trip, and a couple other. Jerry Cheevers was there, another big, huge. I was excited to meet him, but I remember we were on our way back to the airport. We had a couple hours to kill, and a couple of guys. Yvonne Cornwallier.
Oh, Cornwallier.
Well, that's Cornwallier. Thanks.
Also a very good golfer. Yeah.
So it was Yvonne Cornwallier, and we're on our way to the airport, and the two guys that were driving said, "Oh, we want to stop off and get some stuff for our kids." And we're like, "Okay, fine." So those two guys went off to buy some presents, and Cornwallier and I are walking through a mall in Florida, and he says, "Here, can I buy you a tea?" And I'm like, "Sure." So we go into a Muffins, and I'm sitting there having a tea and muffins with Yvonne Cornwallier, and I'm thinking to myself, I wish my dad were alive. He would never believe I'm sitting here with a guy who's got the 10 rings on each finger.
Right.
Anyway,
that's a good story, man. And it's true. You know, when you meet your heroes, no matter who you are, I love seeing people who are, like guys like you and me, for example, who are recognized or people know of you, listen to you, watch you. And then to see you like just sort of crumble in front of your idols. I was a little kid. I had your hockey card. Stuff like that is great. It's fantastic.
For me, I forget that on that same trip, Cheevers wasn't being employed by Club Link like Cornwallier and I were, but we're at dinner one night and Cornwallier says, "I think Jerry's coming." I'm like, "Jerry who?" He says, "Cheevers." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." Wow. Because again, when I was a kid, Boston was my favorite team. And I remember drawing pictures of Cheevers' mask and putting on all the little X's where he would have had stitches. Right. And I got to tell you, this, I think Fred might've been with me. I just remember sitting there at dinner thinking, this is just so weird because 9-year-old Moose Jaw Howard would have been completely blown away that I was in the room hanging out, listening to Jerry Cheevers tell stories.
I know. It's so cool. So cool. And by the way, your choice of Johnny Bauer, I mean, everyone I know listening right now is going, yep, Johnny Bauer. If anyone ever met Johnny Bauer, you must have come away with a great feeling because he was the most down-to-earth guy. He would make time for you, man. He'd make you feel special. First time I met him, he was in an elevator at the Royal York Hotel. I was 9 years old. And my dad's like, he's like nudging me, like that's Johnny Bauer. Like he's standing like right next to you. And my dad's something like, Johnny, if you need any help on defense, and he kind of like this, right? And Johnny Bauer looks at me and he goes, "You think you're better than Tim Horton?"
That's so good.
Hey, speaking of brushes with greatness, on the YouTube channel right now, Rick Retu says that Howard Glassman has the best radio voice in the history of radio.
Wow.
He does have a great voice.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rick. And can I tell you one more quick story?
I appreciate it if you would. Yeah, it was great because you're if Randorf could tell stories like this, like, honest to God, man. I feel
bad for all those people that were hoping for like a real sports guy on your very first.
No, but I mean, if Randorf was in, a mall in Florida with Yvonne Cornwallier at a Muffins, I don't know if he could tell the story as well as you're telling.
So this is a quick golf story about meeting, somebody famous. So I've only ever asked 2 autographs in my life, and I've told this story on the Humble and Fred show.
2?
I've only ever asked for 2. One was from Ali. This is going to sound strange, but he was at a Furrier's in Calgary. This is the middle 80s, like 84, 85. I don't know what he was doing there, but I saw a crowd of people in front of a store, and it was Muhammad Ali, and I pulled my car around, and I ran over there, and I waited, and I said, "Champ, can you sign this for me?" That was Ali. So I have his signature, and the only other one I got, it doesn't matter why, but for a while in the 90s, I had a friend that played out of Bay Hill. So I've played that golf course a ton, and my friend was a Canadian Tour player who spent the winter there. And every day at noon, there's about 40 or 50 guys, and you've got to be a scratch or a pro to play in this event. And it's called the Shootout. And Arnold Palmer plays in it when he was alive, played in it every day. Every day, you all put in $50 or whatever it was, and everyone plays for it. And then the winning team gets to split the pot. And I happened to be on the winning team. And I was sitting at a table when Arnold Palmer walked over and threw his $50 down to my team. And I got up, and I'd been there 3 days in a row. So he'd sort of seen me around. He didn't know who I was, but he knew that I was somebody that was in this group of people. So I must be a decent player. Right. So after the 3rd day, and it was the day we won, and I got up and I followed him back to his table, and I took the Bay Hill scorecard, and I said, "Mr. Palmer," and by the way, there's another guy with a giant mitt, like a Johnny Bauer mitt, huge hands. I said, "Mr. Palmer, my name's Howard Glassman." He shook my hand. I said, "Would you sign this card for my father?" And he wrote a very nice note, "Dear Luke, blah, 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 blah." Nice. Arnold Palmer sent that to my dad. And that was one of those, again, a thing. Golf is so intrinsically intertwined with me and as a kid and my dad. But those are the only 2 autographs I got. And it was, I was a grown up at that time. It was somewhere in my 30s. And I remember being so nervous to ask him for it, but he couldn't have been, it's funny, as you say, couldn't have been a nicer man, had all the time in the world, looked me in the eye, shook my hand, and signed it without any question.
I love the way people like Arnold Palmer and Johnny Bauer could disarm you immediately by making you feel special, knowing that you're nervous, and they understand that, and immediately disarm you. How are you? Well, like off the bat, like your buddies. I just love that.
I'll tell you one last addendum to the Arnold Palmer story. So part of the thing at the shootout, and by the way, Palmer's at this time, I don't know how old he was, but he was trying every day. You'd see him with 2 tour bags full of clubs. He's always tinkering, trying to find the perfect club. Right, anyway, there was a rule on the first tee, you could hit a breakfast ball. It was part of the charm of everyone got a chance if you wanted to hit a second ball.
Love it.
But on that day, and I would do this, I was there every winter for 4 or 5 winters, but every day I would go to the first tee and watch Palmer tee off, because I was never in the same group as him, but I was like 3 or 4 groups behind. So I'd go watch him tee off. So this day's no different. But on this day, there were so many guys. There was probably another 20 guys. So the starter was telling everybody, "By the way, guys, today only 1 off the first tee." He told that to everyone that came through. "Only 1 off the first tee today, guys." So Palmer tees off, and he doesn't like his drive, and he goes to hit another one. And the guy says, "Mr. Palmer, we're just playing 1 off the first tee." And the look he gave this guy was so good. It was like, I own the golf course and I'm Arnold fucking Palmer. Right. Didn't say it.
Right.
He just
didn't have to.
Looked at him.
Didn't have to. And was that guy still working there at the end of the day?
But no, here's the best part. He picked up his tee and he went to his cart. Didn't hit the second ball. There you go. And I thought, good for you, Arnold Palmer. But just the way he looked at him. I'm Arnold Palmer. I own this first tee.
I own you.
That's
Humble Howard Glassman, humbleandfred.com. Every day for the last however many years, you guys.
10 years. There's a sign behind Howard. He's got the 10-year anniversary.
And I said this to you the other day when you were on our show. I'm really impressed by your efforts. And I've said this to Boone. I just said to him, there's very few guys that came through the Humble and Fred podcast graduate school.
True.
I remember when you came in and we had you on the show and you were going to try and do some podcasts, and you and Liz and the fact that you've endured this many years, this many episodes says so much about you. And I also think, if I may just finish by saying, I think you've gotten so much better at this because when you came into it, I don't think you understood the broadcast, this type of broadcasting to the level that you do now.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really tickled for you, man.
Thank you, man. It's much more intimate now. And I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I love not having a boss. You know, even when Liz and I were doing the podcast at your studios, you were sort of like, you were the landlord, but you're also, you know, we had certain restrictions because we were sharing that studio. It was your studio, and, you know, and Phil Hong, you're a fantastic, you know, engineer, producer. And so, you know, but when you do it on your own, like when you're the boss of you, you got no one else to look at. There's no finger pointing. There's no, you know, it's all kind of you. So listen, thanks. I really appreciate your mentorship and your friendship all these years. And man, if you got stories like that all the time, man, you're going to be a regular on this show.
Oh, no.
I that's good stuff, man.
Well,
Randorf is going to be, he's going to have to really dig deep to come up with better stuff.
If I
Yvonne
may,
Cornwall in a mall in Florida.
If you ever have me back, I will tell you about going into a strip club with not one, but two Masters champions.
I love it. Okay, what a great tease.
Before
Howard,
we say
thanks
goodbye,
so much, buddy.
Thanks,
not only is there Humble and Fred, but I just want to point out Howard has a golf podcast.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mike.
Swing Thoughts.
Swing Thoughts, yeah.
Find Swing Thoughts. Is it Tim O'Connor? Is that your code?
Tim O'Connor, yeah. Guy that I do it with, best-selling Canadian golf writer and performance coach. And in fact, just before I hopped on with you guys, I just finished recording episode 185 or something. Yeah.
I remember when you first started that. That's awesome.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah,
okay.
Listen, if you have me back, if you're anytime you're in a pinch, I've got some great golfer stories.
Beautiful.
And,
even if I'm not in a pinch, that Cornwall story alone was a fabulous one. Thank you, Howard. All the best, buddy.
Better if I could have remembered his fucking name.
It's okay. You got it. See you, bud. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. Beautiful.
You,
hey, the show's moving along beautifully now. And we're going to go from like one of the all-time greats to a relative unknown, but certainly very shortly will be a very well-known name on this show. A big sports fan and the owner, proprietor of Nate Makes Soap. It's Nate Monk. Hey, Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Morning. Can I tell my brushes with greatness story too? Or?
Absolutely. Listen, that's the reason listen. If you've got a good story to tell, you're welcome on the show. If you're boring and dull and you're a drag, we're going to get rid of you as fast as possible.
Okay.
But first, before you do, tell me about Nate Makes. First of all, thanks for coming on as a sponsor. Really appreciate it. Tell me about Nate Makes Soap and how do I get me some?
So my name's Nate and I make soap and I sell it on natemakessoap.com, which is a Shopify site. I also have bath bombs and shower bars, but cool. Yeah, they're good, great Christmas gifts. Your skin's going to love them. Yeah. What kind of price point are we talking about here, Nate? So $8 a bar. $8 a bar. Nice looking bars of soap I saw, like cool shapes and flavors. The thing is, they last a long time if it's well-made soap. So, I mean, it's better than Ivory or anything you get at the grocery store, which will just dry out your skin, right? Right. What happened in your life where you said, you know, man, I gotta make some soap here. I gotta make good soap because, like, what happened? Well, I guess I was working at another small business and kind of realized, hey, I could do this too. It's hard, but it's not that hard. And then I went on a family trip to the Caribbean, March 2020, and I came back and our company had gone under basically because of Corona and everything. So I was like, I guess I'm going to try and take this full time. Right. So figured, take risks when you're young because you never know. Right on, man. That's fantastic. And how did you hear about Hebsy on Sports? You're a sports fan, I assume. Yeah, I'm a big basketball fan. I'm ready to get hurt by the Leafs again. I don't know. What about the Raptors? I like them, but I mean, I think we know what they're going to be this year. Like, I'm excited to see where Scotty Barnes goes. So hopefully he sticks around. Oh, I hope so too. What a terrific player he is. Absolutely. Hey, so I asked Mike this earlier. So if you had tickets to go to see the Raptors Golden State Warriors, which is tomorrow at the Scotiabank Arena, and it's only 10,000 capacity and they're not selling concessions and
The mask police are out. Are you still pumped to go to that game?
Is Steph playing?
Oh, so you would risk, catching COVID
I
to
don't
see
know.
Steph Curry play?
No, I mean, I saw when Katie was on Golden State, I saw them play in Toronto, and I don't know if the game went to overtime and Kevin Durant hit a 3-pointer to win it in overtime. It was like crazy game, but
I remember that. Yeah.
I probably wouldn't. I'm pretty risk averse. I'm trying to keep my bubble low before the holidays.
Right. And it would kind of be counterproductive to Nate Makes Soap and, washing your hands frequently and, doing your best to avoid, contracting, COVID to kind of wade in there. Right. You could wash your hands 100 times, but now you're going to go in there and be close to people and, kind of defeats that purpose. I was just,
exactly.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it's great to have you. Absolutely. Really, really do appreciate it. Tell the listeners what deal they can get, how they get the soaps. They use a discount code Hebsy10, gives them 10% off. Tell me more.
Hebsy10, that'll give you 10% off through the at checkout on my website. And then I do have free delivery. So if you do live in the West End, there's a few postal codes that if you have an order, it'll get delivered by, this guy right here.
Nice. In the West End of Toronto. So what? Give me the parameters.
West End of Toronto.
So give me the parameters. Where do you deliver into? Because I mean, a lot of our listeners are from, the neighborhood here.
Yeah. So I think M6H and M6E are the postal codes.
Oh, okay. I don't know that.
Oh, okay. But I mean, people know their postal codes, but yeah, there's a couple zones.
All right. NateMakesSoap.com. Hebsy10. That's Hebsy10. Is the code that gives you 10% off. Hey, Nate, thanks so much. That's Nate Monk, ladies and gentlemen, our first sponsor on the new Hebsy on Sports.
Happy to be the first.
What's that?
Happy to be the first.
Oh, great. And great to have you too, Nate. That's Nate Monk. Thank you, Nate. And we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Okay, bye. Thanks.
All right. NateMakesSoap.com.
Hey, I love that
cool
handle,
isn't it?
Yeah, Nate Makes Soap is a great handle.
All right.
Here we're back.
So
but
there you go.
Humble was great too. Let's not bury. That's not how I was gonna say. Let's not throw the baby with the bathwater. Which hopefully you're using your Nate soap when Nate makes soap when you're in the bath. But Humble was a great first guest. I loved his stories.
I love a good storyteller. All right. And speaking of which, did any of you see the Kansas City Chiefs and Los Angeles Chargers game last night? Now, there have been some great games lately. Great NFL games, overtime games, last possession games. So in this game here, the Chargers score to take the lead like with a minute 40 to go. And then Kansas City comes back and they tie the game with like a minute to go. And then the Chargers have a chance. And then in overtime, KC wins the toss. So in overtime in the NFL, if you get the ball first, if you score a touchdown, the game's over, you win.
Right.
If you only get a field goal or you don't score, the other team gets possession and they get a chance. So Kansas City's driving for a touchdown. And sure enough, Pat Mahomes to Travis Kelce, and he runs around these Charger defenders and he goes into the end zone and KC wins. And not only that, they cover the spread. They're favored by 3.5. They're losing the whole game. And they end up winning with a touchdown, and they end up winning by 6. Mahomes to Kelce. It was fabulous. Great game. Mahomes and this Justin Herbert, too. Talk about two quarterbacks firing bullets. It was an amazing game.
NFL games in overtime, we haven't talked since the Bills took on the Buccaneers. And what a comeback. And I know you're a big Bills guy. I root for the Bills, too. But, oh, my goodness, like that comeback, and then it was all kind of lined up. And then, of course, touchdown ends it, and Tom Brady wins again.
Yeah. The Bills get Carolina, their 10.5-point favorite in Buffalo this Sunday against Carolina. But yeah, that game last night was just tremendous. It's a fabulous game. But here's the thing. 2 great quarterbacks, 2 great offenses, and 4 times from inside the 5-yard line, these 2 teams screwed up on 4th down plays. They went for it 4 times on 4th down, and like nobody made it. Like it was crazy.
Well, there was another
goofiest looking calls.
Another football game went into overtime last week, and we better talk about it because it's the big national game.
Yeah. Well, it also had the lowest ratings in a number of years. TSN's trying their best. Well, Winnipeg and Hamilton's not a marquee matchup.
They need the Argo. That's why Argos have to exist in the CFL for no other reason than for the television numbers.
We're talking more CFL now than we've talked in the last 200 episodes or whatever it is. It's the Grey Cup. So anyway, the TSN drew 3.1 million on TSN and RDS. They added the RDS numbers, which is the French TSN, Réseau des Sports. Okay. TSN says another 1.6 million streamed the game or watched portions of it. So that's 1.6 million either watched a 5-second clip or a 20-second clip or watched the whole game or a little bit here and there, right? They we don't know exactly how long these 1.6 million watched for, but we know that that's streaming. So they added that to it. That's TikTok, that's Instagram, that's Twitter. So they add another 1.6. I don't know I don't know if you can really give that to advertisers. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm an advertiser, I'm going, oh, great, another 1.6 streamed. I don't know if they're selling that.
But we're all dying to know, did Mark Hebsy watch any of the Grey Cup?
I did. I watched some of the game. Well, it's kind of boring at first.
But you watched the OT, right?
Oh, yeah. And remember, I predicted that Winnipeg would win the game.
Right.
Even though I there was a point there where I was like, oh, come on, Hamilton. I don't care what I said on the air. Like, it would be this. I mean, Ticats fans were like, this is great. Oh my God. We're like, and they were almost even, I don't want to say premature, but pretty close to like, this looks like it's in the bag. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, wait a second. We're talking about the Ticats. We're talking about Hamilton. Never even say that. Never think that anything can happen. And of course it did.
Hey, you follow Bruce Arthur on Twitter or read his works?
Yeah, I like Bruce. Yeah.
Okay. Bruce had a tweet. I thought it was interesting. After that Grey Cup, he said, we're going to look back and regret having this game. Like, he said, we're going to regret like the crowd that we put together in Hamilton to watch this Grey Cup game. And I thought that was a bit.
Why?
Yeah. Well, he's if you ever follow Bruce Arthur, the sky is falling.
He's an alarmist. Is that what you're saying?
He's hyper. Yes. Yeah,
he can
pretty
be
much
that way. But I'm wondering, some of it's him and some of it's the publication he works for.
Sure, but
you got to grab headlines.
This is an outdoor event. Like, I would be shocked to find. I mean, we're already already a week removed or whatever from the Grey Cup. I haven't heard about any kind of outbreak or spread from the Grey Cup. A bunch of I felt very, very comfortable the week before at BMO Field because it was outdoors. It's a whole different ventilation system.
100%. How about this, Mike? Can you imagine if the Grey Cup were this Sunday? Protocols in place. Would there be protocols in place for
it would have to be
game?
Capacity, right? We have a rule
outdoors
now. Well, I don't know if they specify, but they said any gathering over 1,000, you can only do 50% or something.
Indoor. I think they specified indoor gathering.
I don't know. We'll find out.
You don't know.
I don't know if it's indoor versus outdoors.
Anybody, folks, can you put 20,000 people outside? I mean, when the soccer game is in January, if these were still in place, would you be able to fill Tim Hortons Field under these circumstances, or is that strictly indoors? Indoors.
Your new format is exciting and everything, but what is shitty is the fact we're going through this shit again. Like, we all got our vaccinations so we could kind of move on. We started going to concerts, we're going to sporting events and everything, and here we are back at that whole like, will this game happen? Can I, how many people are canceling their Christmas trips and everything and saying, oh no, we're not going to have the big turkey dinner on Christmas because, we don't want grandma to die of Omicron variant. Like, it's what a shitty spot. But Hebsy, hopefully there's some sports to kind of help us like get away from all that doom and gloom news. Like, I really enjoy watching a sporting event and forgetting the fact that the world is burning.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more difficult. And look, the English Premier Leagues, here's a great example. I mean, I'm a Tottenham fan. I mentioned this last week. They still haven't played in I don't know how long because the team they were supposed to play, they're fine. Leicester came down with a whole bunch of positive cases. And, so they've missed 3 games due to COVID. The league has postponed 5 more games this weekend. Spurs are due to play Liverpool on Sunday. It's not known how many of their players are still in COVID protocol. And a lot of people are now calling for the English Premier League to just shut it down through Christmas and reevaluate. And at the same time, come up with a contingency plan where teams play an equal number of games. And it's less than the number that they play now. I don't know how they play 30 some odd, 36 or 40. I don't know, something like that, whatever the number of games is. But you can't catch up with games this way. There are too many competitions going on. I've mentioned that before. So the English Premier League might be the first one to take the step. Remember, last year, they played in front of empty stadia for a long time. They let the fans back in for a while. Then they had another wave. Then they stopped. So
sorry, didn't mean
Go
to
on.
chat over the host there, but before we say goodbye, because people do love your takes on the different Canadian sports media changes and things, and you've heard a new voice on Sportsnet.
Have you?
No.
You haven't noticed when you're watching Sportsnet, there's the one guy who's the same voice of the fan, right? On Sportsnet, that same voice. It's the same guy who does all the voice over Sportsnet. Right. Sportsnet now.
No, truth be told, honestly, maybe because I'm watching a lot less sports than you, particularly lately. But
but I had mentioned this to you a few weeks ago. You've forgotten.
I had forgotten. Yes.
Okay, and I said there's a new voice on Sportsnet. It's a female voice. Canucks.
Okay,
Leafs.
I don't remember.
Canucks. Saturday on Sportsnet. Leafs. Canucks. I'm like, Canucks. But it's sort of this sound of it's a female, and I guess they say like, we love the way you sound, or can you sound like a hip chick, or that's the way she is. It's just a woman who like has sort of that bit of an attitude, like
is it like Valley perfect. Girl? Is it a bit of a Valley Girl or no?
No, it's not a Valley Girl. No, it's not like that. It's not like a dumb sounding. Oh my God. It's more of
a spoon.
It's more of a like you're going to a club. Let's say, where are you guys going? Okay. Right over there. Canucks. Leafs.
It sounds Canadian to me. Like it sounds like maybe it's a maritime accent or something.
It could be. I don't know. It's like someone. It's like whoever hired this woman was like, again, they're going to a you guys, Leafs, Canucks, Saturday, Sportsnet. Okay, you're hired. You're the new voice. Anyway, it just sounds
interesting. I got to pay attention. I got to pay more attention.
TSN's got to be disappointed. The full TSN network had the Canada-US women's hockey, whatever, a Challenge Cup. I don't know the name of it, the official name of it, right? And they drew 55,000. And there wasn't much else on that night. I'm like, wow, that's not good. Because we keep watching Canada and the US. And it was a great game. We won it. Marie-Philippe Poulin with a gorgeous goal. We won 2-1. Sure. But still, it's like, again? Like, wake me up when it's the Olympics.
Right. So if it's a world championship, we're in. And if it's an Olympic gold medal game, we're in. But everything else seems
Nations
a bit diluted.
Nations Cup or anything else like that. It's always Canada against the US. Yeah, you got to get other nations involved. Exactly. 55,000, not very good at all. Yeah, there you go. I believe that's it. Episode 263 of Hebsy on Sports is in the books. Woo! Thanks to Toronto Mike for production and inspiration. Hit him up at Toronto Mike. He's got a great podcast, fabulous guests. Thanks so much to Humble Howard Glassman for joining us today as our inaugural guest. And Dave Randorf has said that he will definitely come back. He had to go get tested for COVID, and he's part of the Tampa Bay Lightning broadcast team and traveling and the whole deal like that. So he apologized for that. We'll have him back. Special thanks today to Scott Allen, who was the executive producer of this episode, and to Nate from NateMakesSoap.com. Use the promo code Hebsy10, Hebsy10, to get 10% off your first order. Beautiful soaps, lovely stuff. And it helps the show too. And don't forget my book, The Greatest Athlete You've Never Heard of, available on Amazon through Audible with the special promo code that I had mentioned earlier. So you can go to Audible, and here's what it is, folks. Where's that code? I had it here somewhere before we go. Oh, yeah. It's www.audibletrial.com/Hebsy. Okay? Sign up for free and you'll help the show. Thanks for allowing us into your headspace, folks. Really appreciate it. Back with another episode next week. Our guest will be Rob Baker, guitarist for the Tragically Hip, a big Maple Leafs fan, and a future senator, he hopes.
Wow.
That's
not
next.
an Ottawa senator, though.
That's next Friday, baby. That's Friday, December 24th at 9:30. We'll see you then. Until then, so long for now. This podcast has been produced by TMDS and accelerated by Roam Phone. Roam Phone brings you the most reliable virtual phone service to run your business and protect your home number from unwanted calls. Visit roamphone.ca to get started. All right.
Let me turn off the camera. Say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you, everyone.